Our next evolution here, we're going to recode a lock cylinder. A lot of people don't know how this is done, so we're going to attempt to show you. This is a Chrysler ignition. This is shop work. A lot of people do this out of their van or from a mobile standpoint, but I also have a shop, so I have people that bring new components. This is a brand new ignition here, and we're going to go ahead and recode it to match these keys right here. First step, I certainly had to identify what the bitting is or what the cuts are, and by looking at this key, I say that the bitting, this uses a 8-chambered Chrysler system, the M series code, and the bitting I'm going to use to recode this plug will be starting from the bow 2, 4, and there's another 2, 4, 4, and then there's a number 2 there, a number 1, and a number 2. People say, wow, you know, how can you look at a key and know how to cut it? Well, after doing this for a while, you get to, I guess it's just a part of your mind, how you think. But anyway, that's the combination, that's the key combination here. That's how this key is made, and I'm going to recode this lock cylinder. This plug has 8 chambers. There's the tip of the key comes here, goes in the keyway here. So key goes in there, hits all of these chambers here, which will have tumblers in there, and as long as the combination is set right, the sidebar, which is right here, will fall flat just like it is, and that'll allow this plug to rotate in this cylinder so you can start the car. Turn the car on, turn it off. It'll operate just like it does now without tumblers, except when you take it to the lock position, it'll lock and you take the key out. Okay? Without tumblers, without a combination, you can put the key in any kind of way, anytime, take it out anytime. Or if there were damaged tumblers, you could do the same thing. Take the key in, or put the key in and take it out anytime. So what we're going to do is we're going to code this lock up right now. And I'm going to use a rekeying kit here, Chrysler Dodge keying kit from Stratec, and we're going to use the tumblers for the 8-cut ignition system. I have some other little tools that I'll be using to assist me, such as a pair of tweezers. These springs are small, and so we're going to be putting springs inside of this plug and then putting tumblers in here to match. Now, let's get started. First, we're going to put some lubricant. I always like to use lubricant. That's a habit. It's not a bad habit. Sometimes some lock cylinders or certain surfaces, depending on the type of material that it was made of, you don't really want to put any kind of a general purpose lubricant. So let's rock and put lubricant in places where it's going to need lubricant at. First, we'll go with the cylinder. We'll put a little bit in there. A little bit in there. You got springs and pins going there that to lock the plug in place. It makes everything nice and tight. And we'll start here, and we'll put some lubricant here in these holes where the springs are. Turn it over and do the same thing. Some people will say, oh, you should wear some gloves when you're doing this. If you're not going to wear gloves, at least remember to wash your hands before touching your face. or especially rubbing your eyes. You don't want grease in your eyes. Now here we have the retainer pins that go inside of this cylinder here. We put those in, get that all ready. Those are nice and simple and easy. So that part's ready. We're going to put the springs inside the wells of the chambers. You have 8 tumblers in the ignition. For those of you who have to replace these ignitions or think you might need to do work on them for some reason or another, whether you have a key or don't have a key, especially if you don't have a key, you need to be aware and know where the drilling points are, so you can put a small hole in the face of this lock and drill to a point where you can get to the sidebar. Then you can pick the lock while applying a small pressure on the sidebar, and you'll be able to rotate it over and pick it so that you can remove this lock in case of an emergency. There are other ways that you can rotate the cylinder without picking it or drilling, but no matter what, once you drill this lock so you can run a little piece of metal down and put pressure on the sidebar, you're still going to want to replace it. Okay, so anytime you got to remove a lock cylinder from a Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep product, replace it with a new one. So 8 chambers, 8 tumblers, 4 on each side, 180 degrees out. First one being a number 2. So we pull a 2, and I always take a look to make sure I'm putting the correct depth of tumbler in there. And then we're just not going to rotate it over and over. We're just going to keep going down the line. So the first one, and then the third one is also a number 2. And then the 5th one is a number 4. So number 4. And then the 7th one is a number 1. So reach in there, we grab number 1 and roll it in. And we go to the other side. I'm going to start with the even numbered chambers. First one being a number 4. Second one also being a number 4. Now notice how these tumblers are made, where they have a little notch. Let me see if I can point that at you there. A little notch right here. You can see that little notch. That's where the sidebar actually rests. Okay, number 4. Then the 6th one, number 6 spot chamber, is a number 2. And the 8th chamber is a number 2. Now, like I told you, look at that sidebar. See how she's sitting up there? Okay, because we've got tumblers in here now. So naturally, of course, if we stick it in that cylinder, you can't rotate this tumbler. But to check and make sure things are right, we can stick the key in there. Here, I'll do it with my left hand so you can see it. Stick the key in there. Notice, sidebar, flush. Okay, now this will actually rotate in this lock cylinder. Boom, done. That's how it's done. To put this lock cylinder into the steering column, the housing, this little button here, this is called a retainer, has to be depressed. In order to depress it and pull the cylinder out, the plug has to be in the on position. Okay, which is right there. See, you can